Welcome to the Deconstructing Data podcast. I'm Jessie Lezak, fractional CMO at BDEX, along with BDEX's Enterprise Sales Director, Adam Fitzgerald. Good to see you, Adam. Great episode last week. What's new?
Thank you, Jesse. It is good to have you back and good to see you as well. We are really busy here in what seems and feels like the pollen capital of the United States, but I guess it is that time of year, right?
Yes, I hear you there for sure. Well, yes, absolutely. And today I'm kind of feeling that too, because last week I was in Florida and as you know, it's super humid down there, but then here it's like so much more dry. So I definitely felt that difference when I got home and I'm like, man, it's so different in Florida. I could breathe so much better, but I digress. But today on Deconstructing Data, we're thrilled to welcome on Robin Patra. Robin is a seasoned data leader with 20 years of experience across multiple industries and driving transformative data strategies, specializing in identity resolution, data enrichment, and advertising data to create impactful and privacy compliant customer insights. So welcome to the show, Robin.
Robin, it's a pleasure to have you. And as Jesse said, welcome to Deconstructing Data. Maybe you could kick us off by telling us a little bit about your story and what led you to become Director of Data and Analytics and AI at Arco Construction Company.
Great. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, and everyone, welcome on board. So my journey to becoming the Director of Data Analytics and AI at Arco has been anything but a linear journey, and that's what made it very meaningful. So I started my career deep in the world of data, working in global finance, supply chain, and enterprise tech with companies like Cisco and BlackRock. Over the time, I realized that no matter the industry, the core challenge was always like, how do you turn data into something real, something that helps people make better decisions faster? That mindset led me into construction, a space that is incredibly complex, fast moving. The data is distributed all over and often underserved when it comes to applied intelligence. At Arco, I saw an opportunity to bring AI and analytics out of the back office into the job site to help project teams, estimator, safety people, and executives operate with a greater visibility, precision, and trust. Precision is one of the major important things that brought me to Arco. It wasn't just about building a dashboard. It was about building a data culture, one that connect the field operations, finance, leadership through a shared intelligence. And that's what drives me to this day, turning complexity into clarity and helping people from the job side to the boardroom, making them smarter, confident with decisions, and take a data driven insights. Thank you.
That was really great. Absolutely. And thank you for being here. We appreciate that. And we've already had such a really interesting conversation pre-show. So I know our conversation now will continue to be interesting.
Great.
I don't know if we've ever talked to anyone with the sort of expertise you offer in construction, like we were talking about pre-show. So I'm sure we'll get into that. But let's get into the first topic and have you kick us off, Robin. Data strategy, turning insight into action. So in general, what could you teach us about that?
See, I would take a very step into this one. Now, if you take like strategy, what do you mean by a strategy? It is like, how can we reach from point A to point B? Now, in that strategy, and that's primarily been lying with our business partners, like, because the insight, whatever we create, is to be used by the business user because they are the real consumer and driver of that. So that data strategy is primarily, okay, what am I doing it now? How can it be a different when I apply a new data ecosystem, and how can I move it forward? For example, like if I am not getting at one point of time, my leadership were not getting the real visibility of the risk in the environment. Now, if I have to go for a risk ecosystem, that is like, okay, that is the outcome I'm looking at. The data strategy would be, okay, great. I have to make the risk ecosystem. For that, what kind of data would I need? What kind of quality metrics would I need? What kind of dashboard would I need? And then where does that insight get integrated into my ecosystem? So that's where for me is a real data strategy which is quantifiable, to be used by the ecosystem and integrated into the enterprise fabric.
Wow, yeah, that's really insightful. I'm curious, how do you, when you think about a successful data strategy,
Mhm.
what are some of the key components that you suggest businesses focus on?
See, from my experience working for Cisco, BlackRock, and Arco, business, the tech doesn't matter. Now, the business has got three components to that, or in a bigger scale. It's like, because of this data strategy or a data, whatever we talk about, is it improving my productivity? Is it making my operational excellence? Or it is innovating me to do something different? So those are the three pillars that any business looks at any given point of time if they're investing money. And just to add to that, data function is an enabler for business. We have to take that construct in mind always. We are the enabler for business, and we are not the cost center. So yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Not a cost center, and you're an enabler for the
Yes.
business.
Yeah.
So for companies who feel like leveraging data can be a perfect mix of kind of this wild west world
Uh-huh.
and the land of cliches, right? Where everything is jargon that's spread around everywhere you're looking at in the digital ecosystem. Where do you suggest they start?
See, okay, so let's take a step back, Adam, on this one. Okay. If you take a step back, in an enterprise, what are the three things that work? It is like there are three pillars to any of the environment. It is like the people, the process, and the system. Okay. These three primarily work together to make any enterprise move forward. Now, between these three, there is a common thread. The thread is the data. At times, the data gets like complicated. I mean to say, like, it is overused or it is like scattered everywhere. But people, process, and the system are the three important pillars of an enterprise. Now, for a company to start in a data journey, they should first of all map these three and find where there is a gap where they can start with. For example, if they see a lot of manual process, that's where the data strategy and the data initiative can come with an automation. If they see any of the process is pretty complicated, they can start that, like, how can we simplify that? Similarly, from the people aspect, if they see like the people are doing many of the things, repetitive things, how can we simplify? So for me, in an enterprise, it should be like, first of all, can we simplify any process? Can we automate any process? Or can we optimize any of the existing workflow and all? So that's where we can start.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. Looking at ways to simplify and create efficiencies, and figuring out what data can be leveraged to help along that way. That's a really good point.
Yep. Thank you.
I really liked the 3 points. I put them in the comments for anyone who mentioned it, but you said the people, the process, and the system help an enterprise move forward, but the common thread is the data.
Yeah.
I thought that was really powerful, and that could be applied across industries as well. But before we move on, would either of you have anything else you want to share on data strategy and turning your insights into action? What about like for our marketers listening, in terms of like the data strategy? We think of the marketing strategy a lot, and yes, data should be part of that. What would both of you say we need to be thinking about in terms of turning insights into action?
So I can take the first step, and we can like discuss on that. See, any of the strategy if you take, it should be, first of all, for me, it should be quantifiable, having a perfect ROI, and specific to the data strategy that should be aligned to the business initiative. It cannot be a standalone thing. That's my take to start with, and then we can dig deeper. Like if you take a marketing initiative, okay. Now, marketing initiative is something to create an awareness of either a product or, let's say, a company. But then taking a step back to that, how can data help? Which means like translating the marketing initiative data and understanding the customer behavior and making sure that initiative can translate it into a sales. If data strategy can help mitigate that gap and bring more sales, that makes a real data strategy aligned with the marketing strategy. That's what I so that's my point of view on that.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and I would probably add, focusing on quality too,
Yeah.
right? So I think it's easy to get overwhelmed sometimes by the amount of data that can be at your fingertips, whether that's your own first-party data, different third-party data assets, different data vendors, different data providers, and so it's easy, I think, in a marketing world to easily try to grab
Yeah.
onto the latest and greatest, widget, the flashiest, shiniest object, whatever. I'm gonna stay in my
Yeah.
land of cliches, I guess, for a little while.
Yeah.
But I think it's easy to grasp onto those and lose sight of, the alignment that Robin talked about, the accuracy, and most importantly, the data quality.
Yep. Thank you.
Definitely. Yeah. Sorry for that slow transition there. But data quality is so important, and there's just so much bad data out there. So I'm glad you brought that up, Adam. Let's go into our second topic then. So managing data, like you were just saying, Adam, we have so much data at our fingertips, right? Like, what do you even do to consider it all sometimes? And a lot of it's siloed and it doesn't talk to each other. And so how do we manage it all, and managing data as well as digital transformation? Because, I mean, believe it or not, there are some enterprises who are still, not collecting data correctly, or moving data around correctly, or using their data to the full extent that they could be. So what's the workaround here? Could you kick us off on this topic, Robin, with managing data and digital transformation?
See, digital transformation is primarily the aspiration of a company, I would say. How they wanted to go towards, like, with all the digital tools that we have currently in the market at our disposal. So, for example, like, I can just take an example. Like, if you are in the let's say in the construction ecosystem. Now, earlier, what we used to have is like we used to do the estimation, the project planning, the reporting, the budgeting, the invoices. All the processes are been primarily been manual. Now, what happened is, like, down the line, lot of ERP system get evolved that addresses only a specific business process. But now, as a company, when you are growing very fast and you have got the tools available, how can you integrate those digital tools which are enabling only your process? How can we make that as an enterprise wise all connected? Which means, like, whenever there is a request comes in, like we onboard a customer in CRM. Now, as soon as the customer get onboarded, can we get, like, okay, what kind of projects that customer does? Based upon the projects and the portfolio, can my sales team can create an RFP to pitch the customer automatic way, and then create some sort of you can say a sales deck to present to them. If the project is approved, can we get a very high level estimates based upon my historical data? What is the high level project plan looks like? Can that be given to my recruiting team? Do we have the right people or not? Similarly, having all the project management stuffs in place. So if you see here, we are connecting the existing manual process dot with the technical tools or the digital tools we have. And that is primarily the vision what the company always has when they're trying to move towards the digital transformation world, and trying to make sure, like as I was talking earlier, it's fundamentally leads to three important pillars: what automation we are trying to build, what kind of optimization we are trying to build, what kind of simplification we are trying to build in the ecosystem.
Robin, it sounds like you've had quite your fair share of exposure in your experience to helping to manage change and digital transformation. I think digital transformation is one of those, another one of those buzzwords that the industry as a whole has seemed to adopt and latch onto. You and I both know that when managing change and transformation, you're inevitably going to run into resistance along the
Yes,
way.
absolutely.
And so I'm curious, what in your experience, what have you seen be an effective tool, or how do you recommend leaders kind of manage resistance, especially as it relates to data-driven
Mhm.
digital transformation and changes within an organization?
Adam, that's a really good question. Okay, honestly, because
It's the $1 million question,
it's
right?
$1 million question. And honestly, Adam, the thing is like, it's not the technical thing. When you are looking for a change, it's primarily we are dealing with people emotions, because as a human being we are always resistant to change. So that's the thing, like when I spoke with respect to data, there are three important things: it is the people, it is the process, and the system. So the way that I have worked through that is primarily a very empathetic approach, which means like, take the customer who are using that change at the center of anything, make them the center of your discussion, and let them give you the coaching and the driven what they're expecting. So they would be a part of your solution, they would be a part of your like advocacy and the cheerleader. If you can get one or two like that people in that entire transformation, that will make your life easier, which means like you'd be working very closely with them, making sure their voice is heard, their issues are being addressed, and then take that into whatever the technical solutions whatever you take. But then your customer, the people who are getting impacted, they should be at the center and the middle of the entire transformation. If you are taking that as a technical thing, that is definitely going to fail.
Yeah, I think you bring up some really good points there. Earlier, you talked a little bit about data culture.
Yeah.
And so I think one of the other things that is important to recognize here is the role that company culture plays in the successful adoption of data and digital transformation initiatives. As you think about your experience and the different clients and companies that you've worked with, what are some things that stick out to you that are critical to have in terms of a successful company culture that helps make that adoption a little bit easier, a little bit stickier along the way?
So Adam, I would like to divide that into two parts. Okay, that question. So the first is like about the company culture and the change. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So see, company culture wise, if the company's culture is like, for example, any change that has came up recently and all, there should be an established change champion in the company, which can create the awareness why the change is coming, who are the part of that, and how can that impact anyone. Which is like, there should be a change advocacy ecosystem inside the company if you are going for a digital transformation. And the reason is like, I will give it to you. Tomorrow in any of the company, if you say like, we are going for AI transformation, based upon all the marketing things and the things in the internet, many people will think like, I will lose my job. But if there is a clear communication pretty often which says like, this change is going to be making your life easier, and people and start engaging people, that will make the change very easier, rather than no communication, no upfront, no coaching to the people. that will create a fear inside the company. How do you think about that? Anything that you would like to say?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think change, having an advocate for change, having an
Yeah,
internal champion of change, communicating and getting in front
and
of the messaging of that early on,
yes,
rather than being really reactive in how that's
yeah.
communicated. Um, I agree that those make a lot of sense and can help make that a more seamless, stickier transition and solution.
Yeah, because see, all the any of the technical change, so not technical, any of the digital change, what we're talking about, it primarily impacts the people. So now in a function or in a company, the leader should be initiating that conversation across the group, and there should be a constant conversation around that, what benefit it is trying to make, how much opportunity it is getting created. Don't say like we are solving a problem, because if you say like we are solving a problem, people will say there is no problem at all. So it is like, what is the opportunity we are creating with this change, how it will impact you, and what benefit it is going to be bringing to you. So those kind of communication, constant communication, engaging the people is most important. And
Yeah.
that is what I have learned from my past 3 experiences across the companies.
Makes sense. Communicate, overly communicate. That's all a good point. Thank you for mentioning that, both of you. So, moving into our third topic, which is data in AI. Of course, we've got to touch on AI
Yeah,
and powering smarter decisions
yeah,
specifically. Could you kick us off, Robin?
yeah, that's a very favorite topic of mine, and I really love it. So if you take like AI, okay, let's talk about AI. So AI is primarily giving you something that we human we know, but then it gives you something very faster at your end. Like for example, any sort of a prediction, any sort of like a recommendation, or nowadays when we are using chat gpts, we get the things out of the box. The point here is like, if you take that smart decision in AI, the outcome should be in an enterprise, that outcome should be integrated into your process, and people should be enabled to take action. I will give you a very simple example what we all have seen. See, chat gpt was out pretty much, I guess, before 2023 when it was a model. But then when chat gpt incorporated a ui layer, which is like a browser where people can interact with that model, it exploded. So if you take that construct and apply that in the smarter decision, which means like people should be able to interact with the data, and they should be able to take some decisions on that data. If that is not enabled, then it is just a fancy tool in your enterprise.
Yeah, definitely. And we just all don't need any more fancy tools in
Yeah,
our toolbox, because AI should be doing the opposite and helping us eliminate some of those tools. And I know it
of course.
has for several businesses. But what would you add on this, Adam, in terms of data and AI empowering smarter decisions?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're seeing a lot of really cool tools start to emerge that are designed specifically to do what we've talked about earlier in this episode, right? Make life easier,
Yeah,
not create just an extra roadblock or an extra step or be an extra thing or a shiny widget, but to initiate and drive change and transformation that makes functionality easier, makes somebody's life easier, and ultimately goes back to kind of those 3 pillars that Robin pointed out earlier of improving people, processes, or systems. Um, I do have a question for Robin. I'm curious, Robin, what you're seeing kind of emerging in terms of AI driven trends that you see that are shaping the future of decision making in business.
yeah. So Adam, again, an interesting question there. So the way that I am seeing that, and I have adopted as well, it is like the information and insight augmentation. Now, what do I mean by that? So let me just give an example of that. For the past like a decade, we have been stuck up into like the dashboard that shows you a matrix. For example, you guys are from the marketing field, there might be a marketing matrix which shows like, okay, our what is the trend going on. But then as a leader and with the AI coming into the picture, if there is a dip at any given point of time from our baseline, the system should able to say you why that dip has happened. You should not be able to have to dig into like hire an analyst or whomsoever that dig into the data, but the system should give you a reason why that dip has happened. Now, after giving the why, the system, the AI system and the new system we're talking about, they should also recommend what is the probable next action because of that, who can help, so that it is giving you a reason. Plus, it is also prescribing who is the person or a group inside the company that can help you to mitigate this one. So, this kind of information augmentation, I would say the intelligence information augmentation that is happening in the industry, and that is where AI and the smarter decisions are taking their foothold now.
And I think that also helps to kind of reinforce this reframing of our mentality of how we view leveraging AI tools within
Yep,
our workplaces. And kind of what I took away from what you just said is it's not about replacing someone's job or replacing job
yeah,
functionality. It's more about streamlining the flow
yeah,
of information and processes so that you can move faster and be more agile within your industry. And I think one of the things that I've observed time and time again is a lot of times the companies that are able to move the fastest start to gain the biggest competitive edges, right?
absolutely. So it's like for example, like if you are into the manufacturing world, and it takes like for example in the older days it might take around 7 days to solve a customer issue. But with all the AI new tools coming into the picture, and that has been integrated into your process, that should reduce the customer issues resolving from 7 days, it should reduce to less than a day. So then if you can reduce that, you can see the kind of like change you are seeing. You are seeing a much valued customer satisfaction. First of all, customers start trusting you more, and then the efficiency in your company, when like the uh, previously your efforts are going into solving the customer issue, now the people can invest that time into more other important things.
Yeah. I think one of the things Jesse alluded to earlier in our show, this might be the first uh, deconstructing data episode where we have spoken to somebody um, in the construction industry, at least at the level that you are engaged. And so I'm curious, what kind of insights can you give us on how AI and machine learning and all these tools that we've been talking about are being used to drive operational efficiency and risk management within the construction industry? Before, when we were talking pre-show, you talked a little bit about how one of your goals in introducing AI and leveraging data in the construction industry is to increase safety and save lives. And so I'm curious if you can share with our listeners some of the ways that you're seeing AI and machine learning and some of those tools being leveraged to help with those efforts.
You see, in the construction, Adam, I would take that like for the operational efficiency, the couple of things comes into the picture. First of all is like the estimation, because in the construction we are building it's $1 million buildings what we build infrastructure for any of the client. So the one thing that comes the AI gives is like the estimation efficiency. That's one of the very important thing, estimation efficiency from the historical trend. How best can we help our customer understand what would be the cost of a project? The second way that the things are coming into the picture is the workforce management. If you see in the construction, we primarily work with third-party vendors. The workforce is pretty much like we don't own the entire workforce, but then to have any of the construction project move, we need a constant flow of the workforce. So how can we get the visibility? When do we need what kind of people and where? The third piece where is like if you take like the general contractor like Arco, we don't own all the suppliers, and the supplier information and the supplier ecosystem is totally like it is not a consistent, it's all distributed. So bringing the right supplier, having that information at your fingertip, that's where AI is helping from the market data and all the things, giving us information like for this kind of a job, this is the electrical supplier, this is the plumbing supplier that can give you a best rate, and their efficiency is this much. So those things. The second, the very last piece is on the sales and the marketing side. What we are saying, it's like having the so it's like in this way. If we talk about pre-construction, now you go for a land for a pre-construction and all, but then you don't have the right data which can say like this land can be a this land may be at the litigation, or there is a past historical environmental issues that is happening in that land which has happened that might cause this buildings and all to like crumble and all. Having all the AI ecosystem what we are working with, that give us this all information upfront, and we know like this job site is secure, this job site is best, this job site will withstand this kind of environmental things and all. So that's where we are seeing the change with the AI in the construction currently.
So interesting. Thanks for asking that question, Adam. I'm glad we got to get into that a little bit. But before we wrap up, we got to make sure we get to tech stack.
Okay.
I'm imagining you might know of some tools that are different than what we normally hear. But we'd love to know, what are some of your favorite tools in your tech stack that empower you and your team?
So I have worked with various tech stack, but then currently I will let you know my current tech stack. It is like we get we are into the Azure ecosystem, and then our main expectation is like we should enable machine learning, have the business intelligence and the reporting. So that's what the expectation from the platform is. So with that being said, we use our data lake is on the Databricks primarily, and then we have putting our analytics into the Snowflake because we have to distribute the data pretty efficiently. So that's where our Snowflake comes into the picture. From the Snowflake, we move to three kind of a visualization tool, which is like a Tableau, Power BI, and Click. And on the platform monitoring, we have been using Grafana because that gives us the real-time visibility, are our pipelines running okay or not. And then on the data management side and the data quality, we used Microsoft. There is a tool called as I forgot the name of the tool what we use. It is Microsoft Fabric, something that is there. We use that tool. And yeah, so those are the regular tech stack we use. And then we have Python across the board. That's where our entire DBT runs into the data transformation.
Gotcha. Okay, well, we've heard of a lot of those tools actually. So, not a lot of differences there in terms of like Snowflake, Tableau. Yeah, we've heard of that one. Some of the Microsoft tools you mentioned.
And then I'd like to add one more thing. So
Yeah.
since we are making the data actionable, we don't restrict ourselves only to like this Tableau and Power BI. We are also creating analytics app. We have created the analytics app store, which is built on React applications, wherein like, okay, my insight source, this is the trend. My analyst can bring his or her data in Excel and can interact with the data, take the decision, and then write it back into the system. So we are making the data more interactive in that way.
Oh, that's so cool. So it's continually learning because it's just getting more refresh data all the time. So cool. Awesome. Well, I think we have time for one post-topic question, Robin. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, if you could go back to when you first came into, we'll say, the data industry, what is the number one piece of advice you would give yourself?
I'd say one thing for the data industry, if you're coming in, please understand the domain in which you are working. If you don't understand the business and the domain, whatever technical stuff you have, you won't be successful, which translate it into two things, primarily three things. Let's say three things. First of all, understand your domain pretty clearly. Second piece, have a very good data storytelling expertise. And the third, data is always political, so make sure you have the influence. You can influence people. So those are three things.
Yeah, the political part that goes back to your three things, people, right?
Yeah,
And people always, always
it's
bring about
political.
politics. Yeah. So interesting. And it's so true too, because data is a big topic in our politics these days. So it all just goes back to people. So interesting. And we still have 9 minutes. So going off of that, Robin,
Yeah.
are there any lessons you've learned along the way from past jobs or your current position that you think everyone should know?
Yeah. So see, as a data leader, what I have learned, I have failed as well. So I have failed when I was putting my technical hat a lot. But then as a data leader, you should be able to speak in the business language, and you should be able to have a seat in the decision making table. Make sure the your data initiative should always connect with the vision of the company, and people should be able to acknowledge that. If that acknowledgement is not there, the life of a data leader is very short in any company. Because if I talk about data warehouse and if I don't connect that initiative of data warehouse, that might take 200 to 300K of investment. What value it is translating it to a business partner, and is the business partner acknowledging that or not? If it is not there, then people will take it as a data as a technical initiative, and that would be shot down in a very short time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's such a
So
good point. Well, anything else you would like to add on either of that, on any of those points before I wrap up? Because I'd like to ask you, Robin,
uh-huh.
to share with the audience how they could reach you if they want to find you, and also a little bit more about yourself and what you all are working on right now.
See, thank you for that. So people can definitely find me on the LinkedIn. I'm pretty much active on the LinkedIn, so people can find me there. And the one thing that we are working upon currently is like still to scale our risk ecosystem inside Arco. How can we manage and have that risk? And the other thing is like how can we improve our productivity of the people at the job site? So those are the burning topics for us, which we are working upon as a team inside the company.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Robin, for joining us today. This has been a great conversation, and you've had a lot of insights and expertise and knowledge to share with us, and we are very grateful for that.
And I'd say like thank you, Jesse and Adam, for the opportunity. It was great pleasure speaking with you both. So thank you.
Absolutely. And thank you to your dog there in the background, Adam. We've got more dogs of deconstructing
Yeah.
data. I love that.
Yeah.
But before we go, I would like to pull up a quick QR code. So anyone watching on video will be able to scan the QR code. Or if you're listening on podcast, just go to bedex.com and click on talk to an expert so that you can see where we're sending people on the QR code. But we want to invite you to get powered by BDEX and build authentic connections with your audience and drive unprecedented growth. So just imagine harnessing the power of AI, like we've been talking about today, to craft your audiences that resonate with your brand and your audience and your marketing efforts to help them hit the mark every time. So we want to help bring you closer to those goals. So reach out, talk to our team, and if you just go to bedex.com, click on talk to an expert or scan that QR code, you will get our team, and maybe you'll even talk to Adam. But definitely talk to us and get powered by BDEX as well. We want to make sure we point out to you that if you know anyone who you think would be a good fit for deconstructing data, send us their name. If that's you, go ahead and nominate yourself. Email us at info@bedex.com and share your qualitative data with us about the show so we can continue to make it better for you. And with that, we will see you all back next week. But Robin, we really appreciate you joining us for our discussion today.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse and Adam, once again. It's a pleasure speaking with you both, and hope I will come back again with more
Yeah,
insights. So, yeah,
absolutely. Okay, take care.
thank you.